Welcome back, everybody, to End of Life Conversations. Today, we are having Nikki Smith come and speak to us because most of us have never experienced being with a loved one at the end of life, sitting beside them as they are dying. So we find ourselves struggling to discuss this. The moment arrives and the silence and confusion can feel very overwhelming. In this episode, Nikki, the death doula, walks us through how death doulas can support families, why this role exists, and how it's quietly changing the way people experience the end of life for the dying and for the people who love them.
And we get to be on her podcast too.
That's
so
right.
That'll be fun.
She's fun.
Yeah. So what we're going to talk about in this episode is what a death doula actually can do for you and what they don't do, what the boundaries around what they can work with you on, how you can support your dying loved one. When you don't know where to start, this can really be helpful. And then how to start that conversation before there's a crisis, because that's really what this is all about.
That's right.
So Nikki is an end-of-life guide, an advocate, and a death-positive voice, really helping individuals and families navigate one of life's most universal and often avoided experiences.
And most avoided, yes.
Yeah. So if you've ever felt lost or scared or unprepared around the ideas of death and dying, this episode can really give you something to hold on to.
That's right.
So join us.
Stay tuned. Hello. Well, welcome all to End of Life Conversations. I am the Reverend Mother Ana Luisa Armendariz, and we are looking forward to our conversation today. I especially am. We had an opportunity to join Nikki, the death doula, on her podcast and are thrilled to return the favor today. Nikki is an INELDA certified doula. INELDA stands for the International End of Life Doula Association. And she's a grief coach, and she's serving the terminally ill, the dying, elderly, and their loved ones with dignity and respect.
And I am the Reverend Wakil David Matthews. Nikki we had such a great time on her podcast, so we're really looking forward to this. She tells us that her goal is to help others embrace the end of life and communicate openly and honestly with their loved ones. Great idea, right?
Yeah.
she can take the burden and hold space so that you can focus on what matters most to you in your final days and leave this world in peace. So what a wonderful thing. So we will send a link to Nikki's stuff and our podcast notes, and let's get going here.
All right.
How you doing, Nikki? It's so good to see you.
I'm doing well. It's so good to see you guys again. This is exciting.
What in your life inspired you to do the work as a death doula?
Yeah, how'd you get going in this? How did this happen to you?
Yeah. That's always a great question, and I feel like every time I answer it differently.
Oh, good.
A lot of different things I think led me down this path. The farthest back I think I can go, when I was in high school and early on in college, I had a job in a nursing home. And one of the things I got to do was companion work where I would just be with somebody. And this particular place had independent living, assisted living, and nursing, like skilled nursing and memory care. So it was kind of like an all-in-one type facility. So I was in all different aspects of it. But on occasion, I would be doing companion work. So I'd just be with one person for my 8-hour shift in the nursing facility or in memory care. And a couple of times they had me sitting with somebody who was actively dying because they had, if that person didn't have family or whatever, they had kind of an unspoken rule that they didn't want anybody to die alone. So I was 17, 18 years old at that time, and it never felt weird to me. I remember going to school and telling my friends, they're like, "What'd you do over the weekend?" I was like, "Oh, I was sitting with this great lady as she was dying." And they were like, "What? You did what?" I was like, and to me, I'm like, "Oh, wait, is that weird? That's weird, isn't it?" And, but I don't know. I just thought it was beautiful. So that's like the farthest back I can go. But in more recent years, I've had a lot of loss in my life. I lost my brother very unexpectedly in 2015. And a good friend of mine died just a couple years prior to that from an overdose. And I've lost people to suicide. So I've lost a lot of people that I was close to in my life. And that's just when I started noticing where we lack as far as grief care in the United States specifically. And just like society as a whole, we don't talk about death, dying, and grief. So when we're faced with any of those things, it's hard to talk about. And with the losses I had, like some of them were traumatic, and you can't just go up to your random friend and say, I have nightmares about what my brother's final hours look like, and my
Yeah.
friend who took their own life. Like, I can't stop thinking about what was going on in their brain in their final seconds when they did the thing they did that ended their life, like what that was like. And those are the kind of subjects that you bring it up and people recoil.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
And I know I'm preaching to the choir with you guys, but
Yeah.
it's
That's so
just
true.
like, I feel so strongly about destigmatizing the conversations. Like, not saying we have to shout from the mountaintops, but we should not be so scared to talk about those things that scare us, that stick with us, that live in our brains rent free, and bother us, because we don't talk about it. It's just going to sit there and fester, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And we all, we help each other out by making this less difficult to talk about. We can all be better community. We can be better people with each other. So, yeah, that's such a great point. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, why don't you tell us a little more about what your work is now, what you're doing these days, and what's the most thrilling part of what you're doing? What's the most, let's say, fulfilling, maybe?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I love all of it. That's the great thing about being self-employed, is if I find something I don't like, I don't do it anymore. But overall, I've been recently started facilitating workshops. I wrote a workshop around death planning for anybody at any point in their life. And the purpose of this workshop is to not just have a list of like the paperwork, the legal things you need to have together, your living will, your power of attorneys, all that, but the other things we don't think about that we want to have planned for our final days. Because none of us are guaranteed tomorrow.
Right.
If I'm hit by a bus and I'm in a coma, and at that point where they're going to have to decide whether to give me life-sustaining treatment, which I've specified I don't want, how do I want to be treated in that space?
Sure.
What can these people do to honor me and my loved ones, specifically, like emotionally, spiritually, all these other things we don't think about that we might want at the end of our lives, that we can have planned out. And the greatest gift you can give your loved ones is a plan, so they don't have to guess.
Yeah.
I don't have children. I have a niece and a nephew, and I know them fine, but they don't know me as intimately as I know myself, or my husband may know me. And if they have to make these decisions, I don't want them to have to guess.
Right.
They can just
Yeah.
look at my death plan, because I have a death plan written out. It's in a folder. They know where it is, so they can pull it out and say, this is everything Nikki wanted, and here's what she wants done with her remains. This is what's already taken care of, and it's done.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so important.
It just strikes me that we three are really trying to help folks who are encountering this with loved ones or themselves, right? So this is such an important place. It just occurred to me as you said that, is that we don't communicate expectations for a lot of roles that we have in our life in general. And, I was just thinking, like, it's almost like we're writing a manual, and every individual has, like, we've always like, there's no manual to parenting. There's no manual to daughtering, or,
Yeah.
So, there is this aspect of it that kind of elucidates the potential we have in community to both have our needs met and support those others to feel confident that they're making the best choice for you.
Yeah.
That's really, like, I'm so sorry that I'm just having this epiphany. I'm like, wow, I need to write like my own, like, this is how I expect to be treated as a mother. This is how I expect to be treated as a neighbor, because we don't have enough information from people, and we kind of, don't even think about it.
Yeah. Well, and in my case specific, I love you. I'm always open to using myself as an example. Like I said, I don't have children. I have a niece and a nephew, and they are lovely. They have kids of their own. They both have families too. And I say, like a lot of other people, I don't want to be a burden to them, right?
Yeah.
But I also respect, I don't want to deny them of the opportunity to care for me if that's something they want to do. If they are like, we love you to pieces, we want to do everything we can to make your experiences better, we will be your caregivers. Great. I will embrace that, and I will allow them, and they at least have now guidance of how I like to be handled. And if they don't, I'm okay with that. I'm at peace with that. I don't want to be a burden, but if they want to take that role on, I will gladly accept it.
Yeah. And as long as they know that, as long as you've
Yeah,
let them
they do.
know. Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
great thing. We have the conversations.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. There's
Mm-hmm.
something we talk about in the classes that we do too. It's called an ethical will,
yeah,
and
I'm very familiar with ethical wills.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's basically that idea, like what Ana Luisa is saying, writing a manual.
Mhm.
But this is what I wish somebody would have told me about how
Yeah.
life goes, and how
Yeah.
and how much I want you all to know how much I care about you, and how much I want you to forgive me for the things I did, and I want
Yeah.
to forgive you for the things all these kind of things that don't necessarily go into an illegal document, but there's more
Yeah.
like a letter. We had somebody a while back that talked about 2 letters, right? And one letter was all this stuff like,
Yep.
yeah, do this with me, do this, but the other one was just
Yeah.
love letters to your friends and to your loved ones, and just saying,
Yeah.
oh, this is what I'd like you to know. And yeah, I love that. I love,
Mhm.
Ana Luisa, what you're saying about it's a manual. Like how do I mow the lawn?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
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 Well, it just occurred to me too that my daughter in high school had such a hard time interacting with her teachers, and she's autistic and has a lot of sensory issues. And she actually wrote a comic book for her teachers
Oh, wow.
describing all the pieces of what triggers her, how she feels inside, and some, workarounds that people can use to
Yeah.
help her, because she's like, sometimes I'm so overwhelmed I can't say anything. And
Yeah.
so, her teachers were like, this is the best thing I've ever gotten because it gives me a checklist. So, I
Yeah.
mean, we should all have little manuals for,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I love that
I
idea.
love it.
It's a great idea. We should definitely do that.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
put that on my list.
I know, right? I need to make a couple of those myself.
Yeah.
So, what are the biggest challenges that you find in your work day to day?
Well, so I'm in Columbus, Ohio, and we're
Mhm.
not exactly known for being the most progressive part of the United States. So a lot of people are not ready for what we do as death doulas. I'm not saying nobody here is. I have clients. I've worked with people, but on the whole, I still get a lot of resistance when I talk about death and death planning. I have gone into like nursing facilities, assisted living, independent living to talk to them about, what it is I do, but also I'm a huge advocate for self-care for staff of
Oh
people
yeah.
that work in this place, because turnover rate is like 80% in Ohio.
That's
It's
right.
ridiculous because nobody's getting paid well, they're not getting treated well, but
Mhm.
are they addressing grief for their
Mhm.
staff? And a lot of
Yeah.
times they're not. So anyway, I'm the squeaky wheel. I'm always in there yelling.
Good.
But,
Good.
when I talk about what I do, I get a lot of like, oh, okay. And I feel like not everybody is as open to what I do as they are
Right.
maybe in other areas of the United States. And that's okay. I'm not,
Maybe.
Maybe, yeah, maybe not.
I know maybe not, but and I'm not here to push agendas on anybody. I'm just here
Mhm.
to meet people where they're at. And
Mhm.
I've worked with people who are at end of life and they're ready, they're accepting of their own mortality, but their family or their spouses are not. And they don't want anything to do with me. They don't want me around.
Mhm.
And, I'm not there to be like, well, tough noogies, I'm here. I want to meet them where they're at. What about this is scaring you so much? Why are you so resistant to this? And a lot of times it's fear and
Yeah.
it's sadness. They don't want to accept that their person's not going to be there anymore. So I can
Sure.
help them address their grief and their anticipatory grief with that as well. So
Mhm.
I think that's the biggest part is just the resistance to talking about any of this stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Can you think of an example you could share with us, like a real life example of when you've been maybe in a facility like that, and people needed to have better self care, of ideas that you've come up with that have helped them, or the things that, or just a family maybe, something
Yeah.
that's helped kind of shift the perspective.
Yeah. Everybody's going to be unique. Everybody's going to be a little bit
That's
different,
right.
but
That's right.
I've absolutely had I feel like every family I've dealt with, if there's adult children involved, one
Hmm.
or two of them are okay with things that are happening and the other two are absolutely not. And then they start fighting with each other and then they start fighting with the person who is dying. And that's not a good situation. So just at least, if nothing else, if there's an impartial third party that can show up and say, hey, let's talk. Why, what's bothering you today? Let's talk about you specifically. And then the other people, what is bothering you specifically? But a lot of times what is happening is one or two children are doing all of the care and the other ones are not.
Right.
And they either feel excluded or they just don't want to deal with it because of denial. So everybody's feeling anxious about the other person.
Yeah.
So getting them to at least understand and see the other person and what they're doing and what they are not doing. And again, I'm not there to shame anybody, but just to show them, like, here's what's happening here. Here's what's happening here. And we just take a moment to objectively look at all of that. And the ones that are caregiving nonstop 24/7, like, hey, why don't we get a respite care in? Because if they're on hospice has programs for respite care. They can put them somewhere so the family can take a break. I'm like, let's get respite started so you can take 2 days off.
Yeah.
That
Very
tends to
good.
ease a lot of that anxiety
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah, which kind of points to the fact that as doulas, as end-of-life workers, we hold a lot of different hats, right? And one of them is an arbitrator or a facilitator,
Yeah.
So that's great.
Or a family counselor.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I do appreciate that you notice who's doing which jobs and trying to, find ways to kind of help them see each other as like we're doing this as a team.
Right.
Even though it looks like some of our heavy lifting is real, actual heavy lifting.
Right.
But
well, and I see the animosity, especially with siblings, when one is doing all the actual physical hands-on 20 and the other one is like, well, I'll pay the bills. And it could just be that they aren't emotionally ready or capable to do that hands-on work. And to get the other one to see that their sibling they can't mentally or emotionally handle that right now, not where they're at.
Yeah.
And that's not, that's not a bad thing. It's just where they are. So, yeah.
Yeah. We had we're just going to post a new episode this week. Somebody had 4 types of grieving.
Yes, that's what I was thinking about. I love it.
Four griever types, and it's it's being able to kind of understand that and help each other understand that about each other is a good way. There's the other fright or kind of, I don't know, impactful statistic we heard was that 61% of siblings never talk to each other after their parents die.
Yep.
And that it kind of points to, again, what we're talking about is having those conversations, having somebody, a third party, like you said, who can say, well, this is how they're grieving. And let's see if we can't find a way to love each other through this, or support each other.
We're all right. Like whatever we believe, like that's right. What I'm feeling is right.
Exactly.
Right. Quote unquote. And it's hard to look at somebody else's manner of grieving or living or coping or whatever and think that that's right because what I'm feeling is right, but their feeling is wrong.
Right.
No, you're both right. You're just processing things differently.
Exactly.
Yeah. I just, it makes me so sad that families struggle so intensely and drastically.
Yeah.
So anyways, I was just thinking too of a gentleman. I spent this last 2 months with him, and the very first day I met with him, he was like, my wife and I are fighting. And I was like, well, what are you fighting about? And he was like, who's going to clean the litter box? And, he was at home. He was very ill, but he was still trying to amble about. And I said, well, do you think it's really about the litter box? And I said, have you talked about the fact that you have weeks to live? Like, it seems like cleaning the litter box should be low priority for both of you. Like, find somebody to clean the litter box, right? And, I sat with him. I was doing Reiki for folks at that time, and I did Reiki on him. And I said, listen, if you find a way to talk to her about you dying, because he said, we haven't talked about it. We literally have not talked about how I've got weeks. And I was like, I think that's what the cat box is about.
Yeah.
So the following week I showed up and he's like changed the course of everything. He's like, everything is a lot better since we sat down and talked about that. And again, it's like, holding those spaces with siblings, like mom's dying. Oh my God, she's ready because she's been sick or whatever. And I'm not ready to let her go. And, what can we do to make you feel better? Like there's conversations are so needed. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, the time to have those conversations is way before any of
That's
the
right.
way,
That's right.
and it just doesn't happen because, again, circling back, we don't
Yeah.
have these conversations as a society. But oh my God, if
Yeah.
everybody could just be on the same page well before that happens, all the better.
Yeah, it makes it a
Yes.
lot easier. Yeah. Have you run into, well, your own fears or other people's fears? What do you think is, you spoke about this earlier. You said something about maybe part of it is people are afraid, right?
Yeah.
What do you think the fears are? What are your own fears for the end of life? Do you have any yourself, or
I,
are
you
there?
know,
What do you think
when I,
runs
yeah, when I
runs
ask,
the gamut? I guess.
yeah, I mean, it changes.
Yeah.
Well, when I ask people, especially when I'm working with somebody who I can tell has a lot of anxiety, I'm like, well, what specifically is it that's scaring you? Because I want to understand where the fear is coming from.
Yeah.
And I
Mhm.
think the two main things people are most afraid of are suffering, pain,
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
or what comes after. Right. And I said, well, I can
Mhm.
only control one of those.
Yep.
Yeah.
And even I can't do a lot myself, but that's where hospice comes in.
Hmm.
If you've got a
Mhm.
great hospice team, your pain will be managed and you will not suffer.
Mhm.
And educating families on things like that, because so many people are scared of watching their loved ones suffer. I don't want to watch mom suffer. I don't want to watch dad
Yeah.
suffer. I said, if you've got good care, they won't. They
Hmm.
shouldn't, right?
Yeah.
And I emphasize good care because I've seen bad care too. But
Mhm.
a
Yeah.
lot of that's education then. Like, well, what specifically are you afraid of? The gasping, because there's gasping and active dying, and just
Mm-hmm.
educating the family on, yes, you might hear that. You might hear some gurgling noises. You might see some things coming out of mouth and nose, and that's
Mhm.
scary to look at to us. It's very different for somebody who's actively dying.
Hmm.
They
Mhm.
can't feel that. When somebody stops eating, their parent stops wanting food, that's okay. That's the body's way of saying it's shutting down now. One
Yeah.
step
Mhm.
at a time, it's
Mhm.
starting to shut down. And I get so many people like, I don't want to starve mom to death. You're not.
Mm.
She's not going to
Mhm.
starve. They
Mhm.
don't feel hunger. Once the body's dying, they don't feel hunger like we do. It's just a matter of having those conversations well ahead of time, or what to expect to help alleviate those fears before they even arise.
That's
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
That's right.
That's a really great point. Yeah.
So you're
Education.
in education, right? So
Yeah.
you've had a week with a lot of families who have been doing a lot of heavy grieving. How do you leave that moment and take care of yourself?
Honestly, for me personally, and again, everybody's different. For me
Mhm.
personally, silence helps me decompress. I need
Mm.
like
Mhm.
I'll get noise canceling headphones if I can, but
Mhm.
just pulling myself out of a situation and going to my car and closing the door and sitting there,
Mhm.
just that act of
Mhm.
closing the door. When you hear a lot of noise and you close a window and there's like an instant poof of silence, that feels so good to me. So if I can just
Mhm.
have
Mhm.
quiet time where not my body is not inputting sounds and sights
Mm.
and smells, and I can just
Mhm.
turn that off for a moment, that does a huge shift immediately. But
Mhm.
The
I do a lot
silent
of
swaddle.
silence. Oh, that's good. I like that.
Swaddled, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use that. But if I need time to grieve, I take time to grieve.
Mhm.
I grieve
Mhm.
all my clients. Of course I do. I'm a human
Mhm.
Sure.
being. If I
Mhm.
didn't, I think I would be very bad at this job.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, yeah.
allowing myself that opportunity to recognize that, yes, I am grieving and I'm allowed to grieve, even though this
Mhm.
Mhm.
wasn't my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother, doesn't matter. I'm still allowed to grieve them and take that
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
Take a day
Mhm.
off if I need to, take a half a day and
Mhm.
just go for a walk somewhere, stay at home and lay in bed and just let my body do what it needs to do to grieve, and, get up the next day and do what I can.
Yeah, yeah. We are doing all, not only ourselves, but everybody we're with, a favor
Mhm.
by
Yeah.
Mhm.
taking care of ourselves that way.
Yeah.
That's why it's
Mhm.
such an important thing that we always want to hear from each other. What
Yeah.
do you do? How do you do it? And how do we help
Yeah.
each
Mhm.
other? How do you help each other do that? That's the other
Yeah.
part. You said
Mhm.
at one point, you said this is one of the things you do when you go talk to groups is,
Mhm.
how are you taking care of yourselves,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
give them some ideas about how to take care of themselves. So yeah,
Absolutely.
so
And
important.
not decompressing. What's the word? I don't know what the word I'm looking for. Anyway, processing. But I have a group chat with all the death doulas in Ohio. We started a group chat a long time ago.
Good.
Yeah,
Yep.
So
great.
when one of us has something difficult we're going through, we can chat with each other and like ask for advice, or just like, man, I just need to vent for a minute. Here's what's going on. Or I'm really upset right now. My client just died. Like, it's a great way to process, is to
Oh, that's
talk
really
with
a
other
great
people
idea.
who do it too.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great idea for
Yeah.
anybody doing this work. Yeah.
It is a great idea,
Yeah.
especially since some hospice centers, the one I was at, they drilled it into us that we were not allowed to ever talk about our clients or any of the pieces of this.
Mhm.
And so they only hosted like one day a year when all of the volunteers would come in to get to talk to each other. And that was it. But they're
Mhm.
like, no spouses, no family, no neighbors, nobody gets to know this. And that really hinders quality self-care, right? Because
Yeah, it
you're not
does.
able to be like, this is really hard, or this really affected me. So I'm
Yeah.
really glad that you started that text chat with folks, because not everybody needs it every time. And
No.
when you need it, it's there.
That
Yeah,
was
and
like, so I volunteered for a few years the suicide hotline here
Mhm.
in Columbus, and that was a huge part of it, is you have to debrief. Like, that was the word I was looking for, is debrief.
Yeah.
And especially if you have a difficult call, you're never alone in the room. There's always at least two, if not three people in that room answering calls. And if you have a difficult call, you debrief with your shift partner. If they're not available, they have 2 or 3 people that are full-time staff that are on call. You can call them on the phone and talk through it. Never, they're like, do not hold it in. Do not take it home
Good.
with you.
Oh,
Talk it
beautiful.
out. Talk it
Yeah.
out, because we dealt with some heavy, heavy stuff there.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that happens, I think that the idea, there's this whole fear around privacy and stuff, that's why I think hospices have these rules, right? But it's quite possible, and we've done this with our spiritual direction, we have groups that meet to kind of go over stuff. It's quite possible to talk about what's going on in your life without violating HIPAA, right? Without,
I
and
agree.
without saying who you're talking, the name or
Right. I'm
anything
not going to
about
say I'm
them.
dealing with this person at this address.
Right.
Here's their name. And here's, no. No.
Duh.
I
Right,
don't have to use
obviously.
names.
Even without federal regulations, we know better than that, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. So thanks for sharing that. Yeah, that's great. Is there anything else that you wish we had asked you about before we're done?
Oh, I could just talk all day.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, we have such a good time.
No, there's nothing else I can think of. Like, I love your show, and I love that you guys do this. I love that we all do this, because
Yeah.
what a blessing to help destigmatize these subjects, and to get, even if one person walks away from listening to this that says, wow, maybe I should think about this, then great, job done. Right?
Yeah. Maybe I'll go talk to my spouse, my friends, my mom,
Yeah, let your wishes be known.
That's what we hope for. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you offered
Sent a poem.
to read one of our favorite poems by Saint Mary.
Saint Mary Oliver.
Do you want to read it?
I'm going to go see a documentary about her on Sunday.
Oh, nice.
Do you want me to read it? I don't have it in front of me, but I can pull it up.
No, we got it here. We can read it.
Okay. I'll let you read it.
Sometimes it's good to read them twice, even. So,
Yeah.
but do you want to do it, Annalisa, or do you want me to?
Sure. If you end up doing it twice, we could take turns then.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. So, when death comes, Mary Oliver. When death comes, like the hungry bear in autumn, when death comes and takes all the bright coins from his purse to buy me and snaps the purse shut, when death comes like the measles pox, when death comes like an iceberg between the shoulder blades, I want to step through the door full of curiosity and wondering, what's it going to be like, that cottage of darkness? And therefore I look upon everything as a brotherhood and a sisterhood, and I look upon time as no more than an idea, and I consider eternity as another possibility. And I think of each life as a flower, as common as a field daisy and as singular, and each name a comfortable music in the mouth, tending, as all music does, towards silence, and each body a lion of courage and something precious to the earth. When it's over, I want to say, all my life, I was a bride married to amazement. I was the bridegroom taking the world into my arms. When it's over, I don't want to wonder if I have made of my life something particular and real. I don't want to find myself sighing and frightened or full of argument. I don't want to end up simply having visited this world.
Yeah.
That last line is my favorite part of the. I don't want to end up having simply visited this world.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I would, if I would just repeat the last couple of parts because it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
It really strikes me deeply, all of it. But when it says, when it's over, I want to say, all my life I was a bride married to amazement.
Amazement. That's me.
Yeah, I was the bridegroom. That's a
Yep.
Sufi idea that that when we die we're getting married. I was taking the world in my arms. When it's over, I don't want to wonder if I have made of my life something particular and real. I don't want to find myself sighing and frightened and full of argument. I just don't want to end up simply having visited this world. So beautiful, so beautiful. Thank you, St. Mary.
Thank you, St. Mary. Thank you, Nikki, for offering that as a sweet piece today.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. It's been such a pleasure, as always. We love hanging out with you, and we love your work, and we really we look forward to keeping in touch. So tell all your friends.
I will. Thank you so much for having me. This is wonderful.
Yeah, we'll let you know when this goes on. Yeah. All right. Much love. Adios.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Have a great rest of your day because it's early for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Relatively. See you later. Conversations about the end of life. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you to Charles Heaston, the composer of the original music you are listening to now.
And of course, thanks to you, our audience, and all of our amazing guests. Please come back next week for another great episode. Share this with your friends, family, and community. We hope you will subscribe and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Substack. Each guest's additional information will be found in the podcast notes. And of course, if you have a good end-of-life story to share, please reach out. We are always eager to hear from you.